Uranus is the love of knowing thyself. Oftentimes we hear Uranus through a very fractured lens, through a very castrated and usurped lens, and through a lens of precision and succession, and through the Promethean archetype that I saw in the Gnostic Informant deep dive that I'm going to link, and my searching star Prometheus Mrigashira mirage connection, going through all the Asterian fallen stars, and who is doing the walk of fame and for what reason, you know, like Los the Angeles. So get to God, that's what I'm trying to be, as this purification, living up to my name. There's this lake that turned into a scorpionic swamp, but I think that is why Uranus is said to exalt there, because it will shock that swamp like a lightning bolt of, Promethean fires stolen directly from the gods. And because it's like an insight that is not yours, guys. It really isn't yours. And like my insights that I come up with, like I feel like it isn't mine. That's why I'm like purging it. I'm drawing it out of myself. Like I'm unleashing Pandora's box, right? Because living in that moon, in that psyche eros dynamic within myself, my desire principle birthing the foam of Aphrodite by separating the Uranus from the Gaia, and the Marduk from the Tiamat, and the Enlil from the Enki, and the Lucifer from the Christ Jesus, and the Zeus from Typhon, and the Ra from Apep, and the Osiris from Set, and the Isis from Horus, and the Asteria from Urania, and the Hecate versus the Pasiphae, and the Rohini versus the Cheshtamula, Niriti, all this churning of my cosmic ocean that I was going through in my mindscape, and how the moon as a solidification of the foam, the castration of all these godly thoughts of Uranus coming together with Gaia and time, Chronos, separating the frame by frame of it all, and bringing a certain death element to it, but also a certain life seed Makara element to it, because Capricorn and cardinal Earth is Venus's Yogacara sign, because it would have like the Raj Yoga aspect in its fifth house in Taurus and its 10th house in Libra. So relating that with Capricorn and Mars's exaltation and the birth of Mars out of a moon sign, exposed factor Rohini to Mrigashira, and just the glittering Gemini on the waters of Soma, I can see through the ciphering that I'm doing currently, and integrating my natal chart synthesis with the lessons of human design, and just what I've learned through the Vimshatari system and the Jyotish and Vedic philosophy and Greek mythology and Hellenistic Asterian connections to the, Platonic and scientific realm, and also now the metaphysical with the integration of, the androgynous in between Earth, Sagittarius, opposite Gemini, Venus, Mercury, being esoterically the ruler of the helm in Aries, where the sun exalts in a Ketu, Ashwini, Dioscuri, Navamshapada of Gemini. And so it's all about like bringing to light this black sun inside that is like the true light, and the Gemini archetype going from the lower mind to the higher mind, and from the 3 to the 9 by going through the 6 of Virgo, so that it learns how to exalt, how to unveil, how to use the hand, how to be skilled, how to overcome ignorance. Mars's planetary joy in the 6th house, me having Mars in Virgo, which they will tell you like is all sorts of crazy person, which I get. I have been guilty of uh, allowing those energies to work through me in ways that wasn't productive to anybody, you know. And so the Uranus happening in Libra, esoterically opposite Mercury, which is the Taurus glyph, which is the Aries Sun. Everything leads back to that Dylan Sakosio theory that I'm also working through with the philology and the etymology and the everything, and the 1984 Library of Alexandria type of shit that my Tower of Babel is coming from, with all the disconnected sources on this material. So it comes together with the recent transit that we had, where the moon and Saturn were conjunct in Aquarius, which is the Mula Trichona's sign of Saturn, and it would then trine Gemini, which is where Saturn would be said to have a grounding energy to the dispersal, dualistic, ethereal nature of Gemini's cusp of magical thinking, I guess. And because it's like bordering the rational and the emotional and the intuitive and the subjective, with the object recognition germination process of words and archetypes and characters being put into the library of self, and creating the fixed thought that informs the narratives that becomes your I know Aquarius rising life story, to like ascend towards your knowing and refining that, by constantly having the outpour of your wisdom tested through the second house intellectual foundation, reflected in the Piscean mirror of the world and the collective unconscious, and getting to that point where your I know becomes unequivocal in the language of your time. All of these things are just thoughts that I've been kind of like having. And Shravana listening star, if you saw my various Ayanamsha shifts, like if it's tropical sign, sidereal nakshatras, if it's with an Ayanamsha, if it's with 0 degree Ayanamsha, if it's whole signs, if it's equal house, if it's mastering the zodiac, so I had to learn to blend a lot of cusp thinking and a lot of magical thinking and a lot of trauma mechanism response, Libra compensatory for the shadow side, and trying to have this air element in myself be dispersed through everything. I'm dominant in Mercury, right? And learning through the Mercury, Venus, Gemini, Moon, Aphrodite, birth, Uranus, opposite Aries, Libra, Saturn exaltation point, and Uranus exalting in Scorpio, and all these things. So to me, the Uranus exalting in Scorpio, fire of Sagittarius, Jupiter, arrow point back to the Garden of Eden, light, gene key, 11 and 12 thing that I need to ascend to within my 6-2 emotional projector, reflector, archetypal and elemental expression of all these things. Now it's like I now see in retrospect the fact that Uranus is the love of thyself. They say the sun veils Uranus and Leo and Aquarius being opposite to each other. And I have heard that Jupiter, Mercury, Planet X, which to me looks like a part of Fortune and the Earth glyph also, And there's just an interesting connection with how all my Anunnaki Nibiru theories kind of like going through this cosmo irrationalization, discombobulating the symmetry that we have now with trying to fit this 13th sign Ophiuchus Serpentarius hidden character into all of my knowing, and having that makara process of ascending to the throne and connecting the Lucifer Ahriman and the Christ impulse the way Gigi Young talks about. Shravana, listening star, Apollo, god of the abyss, golden key, Ophiuchus type of thinking. Not all those who wander are lost, you know? And this Rohini, goddess of the wilderness, goddess of the hunt, untamable Artemis, you know, and because of like the pursuit of Brahma, Rohini was birthed through a act by Ardra. And when we think of like Ra and Apep and Typhon and Zeus or Prajapati, Jupiter, we know Pusha is a Saturn ruled nakshatra, right? So like I'm always thinking of like Pusha and Ardra and Mrigashira and Rohini and Kritika. Like I think of it Anima Mundi like, and I think of it in terms of the birth of self-awareness, the way natal chart synthesis is teaching me. I'm thinking about it in terms of like Eros springing from the void and Uranus and Gaia, and you know the incestuous copulation of Shu and Tefnut producing like Geb and Lut, and their embrace being inseparable until the father Shu separates them, and that's also Lord of the Air, Pillar, Enlil correspondences, which links back to Marduk and the idea of like a Meru, Mount Olympus, Mount of the Gods, circumpolar central point of gravity, black stone type of thing, black sun, galactic center, great attractor, all these things, you know, in my brain expressing like the Genesis Gaia through Greek mythology, but through my archetypal recognition of like all sorts of fallen stars, all sorts of runes, letters, words, depictions, pictographs, symbols, archetypes, people, narratives, just culture, and how it all pops off, you know, in these appropriations and recapitulations and usurpations and monetizations and traumatizations. Like it's all these, you know, things happening like since ancient times, and it's like nothing is new under the sun. Soul, O moon, like everything that you speak to, the Saraswati of it all, the muses of it all, kind of links the Purva Shada waters of life, Ketu-ness of it all back to the from the root Mula whirlpool of the galaxy and creation, and your psychogenesis and the dynamics that enneagrammatically interplay the archetypes and creates personalities, and all the vortex mathematics that cuts off into like different timelines and neural networks and beginnings and endings, and you constantly creating these like droplets of yourself in the cosmic ocean, Aries to Revati like. And so all of these lenses with Uranus and Libra and Aphrodite's birth and Saturn's exaltation and the number 7 and creation and the colors of the rainbow and Sag, Pluto for me in the tropical, integrating with mastering the zodiac, Ophiuchus rising, Scorpio, Pluto, Libra, Moon, Virgo, Chiron, Mars and North Node. Yes? Hmm? What did you say?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the way, your knowing becomes you, how your name becomes what you were called by and called to be, and how your design and your personality all matches, and me coming full circle with the emotional projection of myself and everything I've reflected, and how just my Taurus field warped reality around me, and how back to the center point of creation there's an all is perfect type of observer seat, and that is Aquarius's knowing, the Gemini, the true Gemini, because it is able to, access all the Geminis through the library of Akashic Ninth House sight and Promethean Uranian projection and Jupiterian exaltation to be the Ganymede cupbearer of the exalted Uranus 12th in Scorpio, and the Prometheus butterfly Athena wisdom, birth of Mars warrior, fight that comes out of your non-passive fade, even if you want everything to just be a cross of Eden, you know, like let the anger redden, let the Mars Virgo, let the perfection of yourself be that which you create in your image and likeness.